The candy of generosity. Sammy was sitting on his grandfather's lap, listening to a story about the virtues of generosity. Suddenly he said excitedly, "Grandpa, I want to taste the candy of good morals. I choose the candy of generosity. I want to see how beautiful it is." His grandfather smiled widely, reached up to an old wooden shelf, and brought down a colorful box that sparkled like the moon. "This," he said, "is the magical box of moral candies. Choose wisely, my boy." Sammy opened the box and found candies of many shapes and colors, each one labeled with the name of a virtue. He reached in and chose the candy of generosity, shaped like a small golden heart. The moment he put the candy in his mouth, a gentle breeze brushed his face. He closed his eyes for a second, and when he opened them, he found himself standing in a strange, unfamiliar street. The houses in this city were tall and narrow, built tightly together with no gardens or wide windows. The colors were faded, the air felt heavy, and even the sounds were distant and dull. There was no laughter, no warm whispers, only the sound of footsteps against the cold stone street. The smell of the city was like old dust, no fresh bread, no flowers. But the strangest thing of all was the people. They walked with their hands in their pockets, heads down and faces tense, as if carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. Sammy walked through the street and saw how miserliness had infected the entire city like an illness. He saw a man wearing a thick wool coat on a hot day, sweating until his eyes nearly teared up. When a child asked why he didn't take it off, the man snapped, "Because it's new. I don't want to buy new clothes. This coat will stay with me until it's ruined." The man was suffering from the heat, yet his stinginess chained him to discomfort. He had become a prisoner of his own possessions. Sammy looked into a window and saw a family sitting at the dinner table. There was very little food, and the father divided it carefully, as if dividing gold. In the center of the city was a large public square, but it was deserted. Sammy saw children playing alone, each in a separate corner, holding old broken toys that they refused to share. He saw two neighbors living side by side, staring at each other through their windows, but never speaking or helping one another. The whole community had turned into isolated islands. Sammy felt a deep sadness and a cold ache in his chest. He sat on a bench and whispered, "This city is so sad. Miserliness has made it cold and lonely." At that moment, he saw a little girl standing beside a balloon seller. She gazed at a bright red balloon with longing eyes, but she had no money. The seller stared back at her with a harsh expression, gripping the balloons as if they were his treasure. Sammy remembered the candy of generosity. He felt again the warmth it brought to his heart, the warmth that chased away the cold he had felt inside. He decided to act. Sammy walked up to the seller and said kindly, "Sir, someone once gave me a candy that made me very happy. I hope you can feel that happiness too." He held out the golden candy of generosity. The seller stared at him in surprise. "Why?" he asked. Sammy smiled softly. "Because giving makes the heart happy." The seller took the candy and ate it. As soon as it melted in his mouth, he felt a sweetness he hadn't tasted in years. The sweetness of giving. He looked at Sammy, then at the sad little girl. For the first time in a long while, something moved inside his hardened heart. He sighed, then said to the girl, "Here, take this balloon. It's a gift from me." The girl's face lit up with joy. She laughed and clapped happily. Her laughter was like music in the silent square, and everyone stopped in their tracks, stunned. A warm wave of light and color spread out from the girl's laughter, and change began to flow through the city like falling dominoes. The man with the wool coat froze, looking at the cheerful balloon seller. He looked down at his heavy coat and whispered, "Why am I torturing myself?" He went to a shop and bought a light shirt. When he put it on, he breathed freely and said, "How nice it is to buy what comforts your heart." The mother heard the girl's laughter through the window. She looked at her angry husband, then at her hungry son. She handed her son a big piece of bread and said, Enough sadness. Our provision is from God. The father looked at his family, softened, and smiled. Let's eat today and be happy. The children in the square saw what happened. One of them threw his broken toy into the center and shouted, "Let's gather our pieces and make one big game together." They all cheered and began working together happily. The neighbors opened their windows and saw life returning to the square. One called out, "Good evening, neighbor." The other smiled back, "Good evening." From one child's laughter came a wave of warmth that revived the whole city and reconnected the hearts that had been isolated for so long. Sammy felt the candy of generosity completely dissolve in his mouth, and suddenly he found himself back in his grandfather's arms, as if he had never left. He looked up and said with amazement and joy, "Grandpa, I saw the city of misers. Such a sad place. Misery makes people suffer alone, makes their families hungry, and turns neighbors into strangers." His grandfather patted his head gently. "You have learned the lesson well, Sammy. Generosity isn't just giving money or food. Generosity is giving warmth, happiness, love. It repairs individuals, strengthens families, and builds communities." Sammy smiled. "And now I understand why the candy of generosity is golden. It lights up every place it goes." His grandfather laughed. "Well said. Tomorrow would you like to try a new candy? How about the candy of honesty?"